Alright, this next one is third person controller plus fly mode by Vinicius Marques, which I may have pronounced wrong. Forgive me. Obviously, the big important thing on this one is, hey, it's free. And much like the third-person system, it is the basis for a larger cover and shooting system for a third-person shooter that it can build on, as well as a separate mobile version. So the mobile version of the third-person controller plus fly, which I'm guessing just has mobile input, it's $12.99, not too bad. $30 for cover and shooting system. Also, not too bad as far as the price of those go. Maybe I can play the demo for that later. But right now we're going to be looking at the free one. So here we are in the demo scene, and we'll start off like with the other one and just play to give it a try. Oh, and I'm instantly falling to the ground. That's not a good sign. This may be, I think, because of the beta? I don't know. Let me try. The floor here is set with a mesh collider. I mean, and it's got a convex, but it's just a quad. And cooking options. I don't even know what that is. What if we add a box collider to the floor? There we go. Maybe a bug in the beta version. I see an error down there. Failed to create convex mesh from source mesh quad. An internal unspecified error has occurred. That could mean the quick hull algorithm found the input mesh topologically challenging. Well, anywho, if it's a quad, I don't know why it's not just a plane, and whatever. So here we are. We can run around, jump. It's got a running jump. It's got a no standing jump. We don't have any rolling or crouching, but we do have, well, let's go up here. Scroll wheel to change the speed. Space to jump. Whoa, that was high. I did the scroll cam. Scroll wheels to slow down. That's kind of weird. Shift to sprint. That's fast. Middle button. Wait. What did it say again? Is it gonna tell me? I was sprinting. Nope. It's only gonna tell me once. F was to fly. Woohoo! Hold shift. Sprint while flying. So that's something. Flying is pretty cool, I guess. Press F to land. Something with middle mouse button. What was it? I don't know. I'm using the scroll wheel to change the running speed. That's kind of weird. But okay. So that's basically it. There's no other fancy abilities, but it does have flying, and it's free. And we'll take a look at how it works. So this one is similar to the third-person system that we took a look at. It's got a rigid body collider, capsule collider. Let me zoom in here. not using ragdoll. But ragdolls are actually, they're built into Unity, so you can add those fairly easily, I think. And then I don't know if the scripting is built in, but you can at least auto build a ragdoll wizard. I think you can just go to 3D object and create ragdoll. And then you have to assign each of the bones from the mesh, and we'll make one. So anyway, it's no big deal that doesn't come already set up with that. There's no health like the other one, so this one's really just a little bit more basic, but it has a similar thing where it has this basic behavior, and then each of the components give it its other abilities. So it's movement, which was like locomotion in the other one, aiming, and flying. Aim button, aim shoulder button. Maybe that's what the middle mouse button thing was supposed to be. Let me check the input manager. Aim, mouse 1. So the aim shoulder joystick button 9 or mouse 2, and aim is mouse 1. Let me see if that does anything. Mouse 2. Oh yeah, here we go. Aiming shoulder. So that's kind of cool. That's like the third person shooter zooming in to, like I was talking about before in the other video, where you want to change the camera state possibly to look over the shoulder instead of having the crosshair, because if you were to zoom in and not move the camera, then the crosshair would be like in the back of his head. So that's kind of cool. Okay, so like I said, back on the character here. Basic behavior, move behavior, aim, and fly. And they're separate components that you add into the system. I think all you need is the basic behavior, which is kind of setting up the state machine, and then each of these other behaviors add on to that. So we can look at the code here. So the basic behavior, this class just manages all the behavior and active or overriding. Has sprint and player camera built in. Comes with a third person orbit basic camera, which is here under this. So it comes with its own camera, and I assume it needs a reference to the camera for to know which way to move. Sometimes you need to know where the camera is in order to get the correct direction for movement. Okay, so you can tell here it's got current behavior, default behavior, behavior locked, some things here. So list of behaviors, and so here's where it is basically the state machine. So it has a fixed update, loops through all the behaviors and checks if they're active, and then calls fixed updates. So it and then I guess it brings overriding behaviors, so at some point it adds them to a list. And late update. It's just passing through the event loop into the active behavior, basically. Subscribe behavior, put a new behavior on the behavior watch list so it adds to the behaviors. And you can set a default behavior. Override behaviors. So I think that's kind of similar to the ignoring of the other system. Maybe it'll be more obvious if we look at like fly behavior here. So it's got a fly button, modifies sprinting. So this one's gonna, it doesn't use the states of the animator. This one uses specific variables in the animator, which is more like a traditional setup. It's got speed, jump is a boolean, fly is a boolean, aim is a boolean, horizontal and vertical, and whether or not it's grounded, all stored in the animator. And it looks like it uses these transitions. So it's got an idle animation. It's transitions if to fall if grounded is false. Goes to locomotion if speed is greater than 0.1. Aim is false and grounded is true. And well, what it does for aim. Because I was definitely walking while I was aiming, I think. Can go back to idle if speed is less than 1. Goes to jump from locomotion. That's why I guess I only get the running jump. And you can go from jump to fall. The locomotion is a simple blend tree. It's a one-dimensional blend tree just based on the speed, so it only goes forward. So that's why if the speed was greater than 0.1 to even enter it, and then as the one-dimensional thing you can kind of adjust the value here. And slowly as it reaches these thresholds, it starts to play different animations. So it's got 4: walk forward, jog, run, and sprint. Separate animations that it transitions into. Oh, I see. So we've got multiple animation layers, so when you're flying, this is the override. So when you're flying, you enter this, if fly is true, you enter this flying animation, fly idle. Interesting. Strafing, that's the aiming. So I see. So these layers are always playing, but your default is just nothing. And then this transition, if your aim is true and if your aim value is set to true and you're on the ground and you're not flying, then enter this strafing animation. Or strafing state and animation. Strafing blend tree, I see. So this is why I can move. So you have a different blend tree set up for strafing. So that's kind of cool. And these are all override layers, so they're automatically going to override anything that actually has an animation. And since this one is the default, then yeah, okay. So back to the code, and in the fly behavior, we've got this the fly boolean. Gets reference to the capsule collider that it assumes exists. So, unlike the other one that had the third-person system that had specific access to these things, this is more of a component approach without dependencies. And then, but it does have a dependency on the behavior manager, which I guess is a singleton. Where's it even getting that? Oh, I didn't look at behavior manager, did I? Generic behavior. Oh, I see. So it does. It has a base class, and behavior manager of the base class is the basic behavior. So each behavior depends on having that basic behavior, which sets up the state machine attached to it, and has like the system, sort of like the third person system. It has those things attached, checks for is grounded, get a code, and then sets up some things to be overridden by each behavior. Okay. So we subscribe the behavior on start to the behavior manager, and update is just the normal mono behavior update. So in this behavior, it checks if you press the fly button and the behavior manager is not already overriding and doing the default behavior. Then it toggles fly, unlock, turn off gravity so you can fly, and then if you're flying, then it registers the behavior, and otherwise unregisters behavior, so it turns it off. And test that the fly boolean is true based on the current behavior, so check the state machine, and then set the animator bool, which will trigger the layer override. Then these local fixed update, that's called by the behavior manager for the active behavior. So while it's active, I guess that would be modifying the camera so you can change the angle and do fly management with the horizontal and vertical fly management. Checks for rotation, then adding force to the rigid body to make it fly, I guess. And rotating is just handling how you rotate the character while you're in this mode. So, okay. So I think this is how how it usually goes, because there's so many different ways to do third-person controllers. Each one has a totally different way of doing it that works for the way they want to do it, and now I'd have to kind of figure it out. So this one is interesting. It uses more of the traditional animator setup and flags, so that's a little bit easier to understand, I think. But it uses layers, override layers for states. So I I guess it would be like if I were to do staff combat where I equip a weapon, then I would create a separate layer for overriding that kind of different movement, because the base layer is handling that. I have seen other ones where you can have base layer and an upper body layer, and you can put animation masks on so that you can have the legs do the locomotion, have the top part do your staff attacks, and maybe that makes sense. But so these not having those masks, avatar masks on it, it's gonna override the entire avatar. So if you haven't seen what an avatar mask looks like, I think you can create avatar mask. Then you can see it goes in the humanoid thing. You can block out certain pieces, so this mask would not mask the legs, and it would do everything that's still green, I think. So you would do it like that, and so that would mean that whatever animations you play on a layer that is masked in that way would only override the top. And so if we were strafing, I'm guessing that I don't know if the top bottom thing with the layers, I have to research just Unity's Animator some more, but I'm not sure about the order. Like if somehow both of these override states were active at the same time, actually playing animation to override, what would happen? Like, does the bottom one take precedence? So this is the demo for the cover shooter, that they've expanded that basic system to a cover shooter system, presumably just by adding more behaviors. So the ability to take exit cover, for example, when I press the middle mouse button, it automatically runs up there and you can crouch and go this way. It's kind of cool. Middle mouse to turn corners. Middle mouse to change. I really like using that middle mouse. I guess what else would you use? And it's cool how it's automatically ducking when he's trying to take cover, but he didn't over here. Because the wall was taller. I don't know if that's like using ray casting, or to know if the character is actually undercover, or whether it is something you set up on the level geometry. Comes with some other. How do I pick things up? E. Using that same aim. 2 mouse button. Got some recoil. So that's pretty cool. So that is an idea of what it could be. It doesn't have fly in the cover mode. guess they removed that. It doesn't make sense for your cover shooter to be able to fly. Yeah, so before I do a big deep dive on this one and try to set up the RPG animations and custom behaviors, I think I want to take a look at some other ones, because this one looks like it's going to be even more complicated to figure out.